So, comrade, I heard you want to visit North Korea, our hermit Kimdom, land of mystery, missiles, constant hunger, and mandatory guided tours. Bold choice. Congratulations on finding this video. Here, we'll go through what a first-time visitor needs to know, and more importantly, what a foreign tourist absolutely must avoid if you plan to return home with interesting memories rather than a televised confession. Because the Kimdom is not your average holiday destination. Whether you are an internet celebrity chasing North Korean clout, or a lifelong Juche enthusiast finally answering history's call, I assume that you do not want to cause any diplomatic incident, nor would you like your vacation to end in a labor camp. In our modern day of informational hysteria, smartphones, with capabilities to sound, record and film, are the most dangerous enemy of the Kim regime. So you, a tourist holding these deadly weapons, must learn how to behave and not make your vlog evidence of crime. Further, we help adjust the mindset you need for this trip, what to expect from the tour, and how to make the most of one of the strangest travel experiences on Earth without becoming a global headline. Before we begin, our weekly mandatory thanks to our loyal channel members. It's you who made our research and production possible. Thank you, sincerely. Come on board the aging Air Koryo flight. Buckle up and let's dig in.
For the safety of the flight, please pay attention to the following safety regulations. Smoking is not allowed during the flight. You are strongly requested to keep yourself seated during the fasten your seatbelt sign.
But wait, isn't North Korea's border still shut and no tourists allowed? Yes and no. In January 2020, Pyongyang slammed the door shut as COVID-19 spread. Tourism, international trade, and even diplomatic relations were all frozen. After 3 years of national quarantine, a few experimental openings followed with limited Russian tourists, special events like the 2025 Pyongyang Marathon, and tightly controlled business visits to places like Rason. The important thing is this: Kim Jong-un never stopped building infrastructure for foreign tourism. The supreme leader kept pouring money and prestige into showcase leisure projects meant to impress future visitors. Last year, Kim Jong-un personally unveiled the Wonsan Kalma Coastal Tourist Zone, a giant beach resort built to host roughly 20,000 visitors, complete with hotels, pools, recreation facilities, and even the Myeongsa-Simni water park. On December 20th, 2025, Kim Jong-un personally visited the 300-room Ikal Hotel in Samjeon and the Milyong Hotel and Spa Resort in the sacred Paektu Mountain. With his wife and respected daughter, Kim toured multi-room suites, indoor swimming pools, billiards halls, spa facilities, conference rooms, and barbecue restaurants. Further, satellite imagery showed a major upgrade to the Samjeon airport and the construction of a new elevated train station, signaling our supreme leader is transforming the revolutionary Holy Mountain into an international ski destination. Then, the Yeongbunjin Coastal Park was inaugurated in January 2026 on the East Coast. It's a hotel plus recreational centre described as accommodating hundreds of people, together with a bathing resort and service facilities including a cinema, shop, electronic gaming hall, and water park. The regime has spent years building the stage set for eventual reopening. It thus makes sense to assume that the 9th Party Congress, splendidly finished this February, marks a serious turning point that Pyongyang wants to bring tourists back for their foreign currencies. The hotels, resorts, ski slopes and water parks are already there, waiting for worldwide Juche admirers to arrive, spend money, and preferably film nothing inconvenient. So, in the near future, Pyongyang will likely give international tourism another green light. Kim Jong-un declared that boosting tourism is a national goal, calling it a motive force for economic growth. This tourist opening can be delayed for security concerns, since currently the global dictatorship business is unusually unstable. But once the international atmosphere calms down, North Korea will eventually let foreigners back in, just making sure that the big orange man isn't going to bomb Pyongyang like Tehran. Before you rush to book a tour, let's get one thing straight. North Korea is not your average holiday destination. It's more like visiting a highly regimented alternate universe. If you come with dollars and can handle the supervised tour with a big smile, you might just enjoy it. If you are still determined, great. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of who can go, how to behave, and what to expect.
Staying with tourism but moving across the border, North Korea has reportedly opened 5 hotels near Baekdusan Mountain as part of plans to promote its tourism in hopes of raking in much-needed foreign currency.
North Korea's state-run news agency KCNA reported on Tuesday that opening ceremonies were held over 2 days for 5 newly inaugurated modern hotels in the Baekdusan Mountain area. In the Samjiyon Tourism District, 2 hotels were opened on December 20th and 3 more on December 21st.
Before everything, an existential question. Are you even allowed to go? The eligibility to enter the Kimdom depends on your passport. It's not entirely Best Korea's fault, as you'd best conform to your own country's rules. Here is a list of nationalities that face serious restrictions. First, the United States. If you're an American citizen, hold your money. Since 2017, the US government has banned its citizens from traveling to North Korea. US passports are invalid for travel to, in, or through the DPRK without special permission. This ban was prompted by a certain tragic incident, and it has been extended year after year, making it still effective at this moment. If you're a US citizen who somehow sneaks in, say via a second passport, you risk not only North Korea's wrath, but also a felony charge back home. Uncle Sam says no, and they mean it seriously. Second, about the fake Korea. South Korea's National Security Act bars its people from unapproved contact with the North, which obviously includes tourist travel. No South Korean can just sign up for a Koryo tour and enjoy the magnificent socialist architecture in the Juche capital. You'd need explicit permission from both Seoul and Pyongyang, which basically never happens for tourist reasons. There were special inter-Korean tour programs in the past, like the Mount Kumgang project, but those ended after a South Korean tourist was tragically shot in 2008. That door has been shut since then. Then Malaysia, a very weird one that often surprises people. Once upon a time, Malaysia had a cozy, visa-free arrangement with North Korea. But not anymore after the assassination of Kim Jong-nam in 2017, which conveniently occurred at the Kuala Lumpur airport. Since then, Malaysia and North Korea severed diplomatic ties. Malaysia issued a travel ban prohibiting its citizens from visiting North Korea as of September 2017. And because Malaysia doesn't recognize dual citizenship, Malaysians can't sidestep it by using another passport. So, sorry Malaysians. For other nationals such as Canada, Germany and India, here is the good news. There's no prohibition for you. North Korea had welcomed Brits, Canadians, Australians, Chinese, Scandinavians, Japanese, Russians, you name it, as tourists in the past. The key is that you must go through an official tour operator and follow all their rules. Independent travel is a big no-no, so you can't just book a flight and backpack around. Finally, here is a vocational warning. If you're a journalist or a media worker, North Korea will almost certainly deny you a tourist visa. They explicitly ban journalists from entering as tourists. Some sneaky journos have tried to go undercover as regular tourists. Let's just say it's high risk. If they even suspect you are press, you'll be turned away or even get detained. So, check your LinkedIn before booking your tour. Don't get yourself a fancy title like YouTuber, reporter, or investigative journalist. With the right passport and a less threatening job, North Korea will let you apply for a visa. The typical process is to book a package through a travel agency that specializes in DPRK tours. Agencies like Koryo Tours, Young Pioneer Tours, Yuri Tours, etc. handle the visa paperwork with Pyongyang. You usually get a tourist visa card issued separately from your passport, often at the North Korean embassy in Beijing. In most cases, North Korea doesn't stamp your passport. They stamp that separate visa paper instead, then take it back when you leave. So your passport won't even show you visited, which is convenient for avoiding awkward questions at future border crossings to South Korea or the US. But of course, if you insist on getting that sacred Juche stamp, you can request and get one. The best souvenir to be shown off to your friends, isn't it? Once you get into the Kimdom, the guides typically will confiscate your passport for the entire duration of the trip. Don't panic, this is very normal. They say it's for registration purposes, but it actually means you can't run off, since you have no travel documents and nowhere to hide. You'll get it back when you exit, with another exit stamp on that removable paper visa. Also, you'll need a visa for the country you transit through. Almost all tours depart from China, the major cities like Beijing and Shanghai. That means you likely need a double-entry Chinese visa. There have been some flights from Vladivostok, Russia as well. So, as long as you are not worried about being kidnapped by a military recruiter officer and sent to the battlefield, it's a possible route, and you then need a Russian visa. Sounds good? Then, you should plan the trip based on your budget and expectations. Again, the only way in is to follow a regimented group tour organized by the North Korean government's tourism bureaus, like the infamous Korea International Travel Company, which controls all itineraries. No matter which tourist agency you book through, they are just the middlemen, and once you're in the country, North Korea's state guides and drivers will take charge. Tours range from quick 3 to 4 day trips to longer adventures that include different cities and revolutionary holy sites. Prices typically start around $1,000 for a short group tour from Beijing, inclusive of your flights, train, hotels, guides, meals, etc. Basically, the tour charges you about $200 to $300 per day. It's not exactly budget travel, as they charge a premium for the privilege of being babysat 24/7. If you want a private tour, like a tour designed just for you or your small group of socialist warriors, it's possible, but costs a lot more. The good news is that there are several different styles of tour, each designed to showcase a different version of the Kimdom. The most common is the Capital and Monuments Tour, centered on Pyongyang. This is where most first-time visitors go, because it contains nearly everything the regime most wants foreigners to see. The Mansudae Grand Monuments, the Tower of the Juche idea, the victorious Fatherland Liberation War Museum, the USS Pueblo spy ship, the socialist relics of Pyongyang Metro, the best Arch of Triumph, and a carefully curated selection of schools, theatres, department stores, and model neighborhoods. Pyongyang is where North Korea looks most like the version of itself it wants to be known worldwide. Monumental, disciplined, theatrical, and sometimes weirdly elegant. Then there are the revolutionary pilgrimage tours, for those who are interested in the sacred revolutionary bloodline. These often include Mount Paektu and Samjeon, the northern mountain zone near the Chinese border, where the Kim dynasty situates much of its myth-making. Mount Paektu is the regime's genesis in geological form. If Pyongyang is the administrative capital, Paektu is the spiritual headquarters of the state religion. Samjeon, meanwhile, has been rebuilt into a showcase frontier city with new hotels, ski facilities, and mountain tourism infrastructure, because even revolutionary holiness now comes with ski slopes, spa treatments, and indoor pools. If the political situation allows it, there are special economic zone tours, especially to Rason and Sinri-ju in the northeast. Rason is interesting because it offers a slightly different angle on the DPRK, less monumental pageantry, more awkward state capitalism. Foreign visitors tend to see ports, border trade dynamics, joint ventures, and a version of North Korea that is a little more improvisational and less choreographed than Pyongyang. Sinri-ju is another interesting destination. It does not have the mystics as Mount Paektu or Panmunjom, but it is where normal citizens know how affluent and prosperous China is, since the Chinese town Dandong is very visible across the Yalu River. Now, Sinri-ju is more than a special economic zone, but where the latest greenhouse miracle happened. Kim Jong-un just inaugurated a 450-hectare greenhouse complex in February this year, and it is a great place to visit and taste some juicy Juche cucumbers. In short, these tours are best suited for people who want to understand how the regime experiments with controlled economic opening without accidentally inventing freedom. Last but not least, there are the niche tours like your ski holiday at Masikryong, hiking or winter trips to Mount Kumgang, industrial curiosity routes, the Day of the Sun special, train journeys, and occasionally bright sun and beach time in places like the Wonsan Kalma Beach Resort. North Korea sometimes pretends it is a normal tourist destination with spas, seaside hotels, and ski slopes, as if sanctions, nuclear weapons, and constant state propaganda are all just temporary inconveniences for a future socialist tropical paradise. Whichever version you choose, the structure remains largely the same. Guided sightseeing by day, foreigner-designated hotel by night. You do not really travel around North Korea in the ordinary sense. You just move through selected attractions according to the plan. The only real difference is which tour package you buy: capital grandeur, revolutionary pilgrimage, border economics, historical Korea, or premium ski holiday. So if you've gotten the green light to go and found your ideal tour package, congrats! Now the real preparation begins. it's time to pack your bag.
People's laughter and optimism are witnessed on the 4-kilometer-long beach of the Wonsan-Kalma coastal tourist area every day. The tourist area has been fully equipped with sea bathing service facilities, diverse sports and amusement facilities, and commercial and catering facilities. The visitors feel the amazing new face of tourist culture of Korean style, flourishing in the era of the Workers' Party.
Packing for North Korea is a delicate art. You have to think not just about practical travel needs, but also about North Korean laws and sensitivities. Some common travel items could be contraband up there. Let's start with the essentials, which are proper dress, medications, toilet paper, snacks, candies, and foreign cash. First, rest assured that North Korea doesn't require tourists to dress like locals, and you can have your very personal hairstyle with dyed colors. But you should definitely avoid any clothing with provocative or political slogans. Pack modest attire and include at least one set of semi-formal outfit for those revolutionary sites. For everyday touring, casual or smart casual is fine. Summers are hot and humid, and light polo and t-shirts are acceptable. Winters are bitterly cold, especially in poorly heated buildings, so bring more warm layers. Sturdy walking shoes are a must. You'll be marching through museums, monuments, maybe hiking a bit. You will find the strictest socialist dress code at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun. No shorts, no jeans, no sandals or anything superfluous. Men typically wear a collared white shirt, long pants. Women wear their modest skirts. Pack accordingly, or you might have to visit a North Korea tailor shop. Next, be careful that medical facilities in North Korea are extremely basic and pharmacies have very limited supplies. Bring all your prescription meds, ideally in original packaging. It's wise to carry a small first aid kit. Think pain relievers, Imodium, and any personal care items you might need. Trust me, a sudden kimchi overload puts risks even on the steeliest stomach. Female travelers should bring their hygiene products, which are difficult to find other than in those showcase department stores. Toilet paper is gold. You must carry a roll or some travel tissue packets, because many public toilets offer none. Your tour company will likely remind you, don't forget toilet paper. If you have dietary restrictions, pack backup snacks. North Korea is not vegan-friendly, nor offers halal or kosher options. Tour meals will have a lot of meat, and there's usually no alternate menu. Socialist restaurants make no accommodation to capitalist picky eaters. If you're a vegetarian who thinks about just taking buckwheat noodles, they use beef or chicken broth anyway. So, if you follow certain dietary rules, come here with caution. Also, bring any comfort snacks you like. The stores you'll visit have a limited, pricey selection of Western snacks. A couple of protein bars or nuts can help if you find yourself peckish at night, since you can't just wander out to a convenience store. Bring some candies too. If your tour guide permits, you can share these sweets with kids or school children during your visit to demonstration schools. Make sure you have enough cash. Your credit cards won't work in Hermit Kimdom. There are no ATMs or banking services for visitors due to the international financial sanctions. You must bring all the money you plan to spend in banknotes. The preferred currencies are euros, the Chinese renminbi, or US dollars. It's weird, right? Despite the anti-American politics, the US dollar is accepted as a hard currency. The Chinese yuan works better if you visit any black markets. Please bring newer, clean bills with no tears or marks. Small denominations are useful for buying souvenirs and drinks, while bigger notes can be easily spent if you love ginseng or socialist artworks. How much to prepare? That depends on your spending habits. Your tour definitely includes meals and hotels, but I am sure you want some souvenirs for friends and family, like some kitschy propaganda posters or a copy of the Pyongyang Times. A few $100s should cover a short trip's extras for most people. Keep it in a safe place on you. North Korea does issue local debit cards to tourists sometimes, but in a recent test run, visitors found few businesses accepted them and everyone preferred cash. So don't count on any kind of card. Cash is king. Finally, electronics. You definitely will bring your smartphone and camera, won't you? North Korea used to confiscate phones at the entry in the old days, but since about 2013, they have allowed your personal cell phones in. However, know that your phone won't have service or data unless you buy a local SIM at an astronomical price, like $120 for 500 megabytes of 3G data, and only if they allow you. There are no local calls for foreigners, which means you cannot access the local Kwangmyongmang intranet nor contact any North Koreans. Essentially, your phone is a camera and an offline device. As for cameras, you're allowed to bring consumer models freely. DSLRs are okay, but telephoto lenses over 150mm are officially banned. They say it is because they worry you'll zoom in on military facilities. Some travelers report that this isn't always strictly enforced, but it's not worth the risk. A big lens will draw attention at customs. Best to leave the 600mm wildlife lens at home. Drones are an absolute no. If you bring one, it will be confiscated at immigration, and you'll raise a lot of suspicion. Don't even think about it. The same goes for things like GPS devices or satellite phones. Even during the Pyongyang Marathon, smart devices with GPS functions are strictly forbidden. Regular handheld GoPros or small video cameras are fine, as long as you follow their guidelines, which we will explain later. Make sure to bring enough memory cards and batteries, since you won't be able to find them easily. Don't forget a universal power adapter. North Korea uses European-style round-plug 220-watt outlets. Most hotels have outlets that fit multiple types, but it's always nice to be prepared. So those are the things worth packing. But what is more important is what you absolutely should not bring. First, books, literature, any printed materials or Western propaganda about North Korea. This is a big one. According to official guidelines, propaganda promoting the Western way of life, as well as books about North Korea published in the West, including Lonely Planets, are officially prohibited. They have tightened rules on importing literature since 2015 and have confiscated travel guidebooks at the airport. So leave any printed materials about North Korea at home. Remember, you can only rely on the state-approved tour guide, not any Western travel guide. An e-reader like a Kindle is a grey area. If you have one, load it with harmless fiction, not 1984 or Animal Farm, and certainly not The Aquariums of Pyongyang. The border control might scroll through your library. Come on, I know it hurts your eyes, but could you please just use your phone as your reader? It's much easier to hide your secret PDFs. Then, no religious items. Bible, Quran, Torah, rosary, cross, Buddha statue, all forbidden. North Korea prohibits religious proselytizing vehemently. It's a true story that, back in 2014, a tourist leaving a Bible in a nightclub got himself arrested. He was eventually released, but still. If they find religious materials, they will assume you intend to distribute them, which is a crime. At best, it'll be confiscated. At worst, you'll be in some serious hot water. Practicing religion openly, other than the Kim worship, is illegal, so just avoid bringing any religious symbols, except things like a Kim Jong-un portrait or a Kim Il-sung lapel pin. One personal Bible for private use might be tolerated only if you declare it first, but I don't recommend testing it yourself. Next, immoral content. This should go without saying, but don't even think about bringing porno magazines, videos, or any explicit material. Purely illegal. North Korea is extremely conservative publicly. What you watch alone at home is one thing, but bringing it into their country is considered a crime of potentially spreading it. The same goes for any media that could be considered obscene and degenerate. Seriously, triple-check your camera roll or downloads folder to ensure there isn't anything compromising. Customs can, and sometimes do, search digital devices for this kind of content. Then, political or activist stuff. Any pamphlets, flyers, banners, flags, especially the fake Korean or American flags, or say, a free North Korea tee, is obviously a no. Even a t-shirt with a peace sign or a political joke could be misinterpreted. Keep everything apolitical. The Australian government notes it's illegal there to show disrespect or even make jokes about the regime or its leaders. So even wearing a Supreme Leader t-shirt can be interpreted as mocking the Supreme Leader. Just do it at home, not in the Kimdom, okay? Finally, we have a long list of miscellaneous items. I mentioned that drones and sat phones are prohibited. Your smartphone with GPS function is okay, since they can't remove that. But don't bring a separate Garmin trekking GPS or anything. Also, no walkie-talkies or two-way radios, which will freak people out. Upon entry, you're generally allowed to bring a reasonable amount of alcohol. Let's say a bottle or two for personal use, but honestly, you can buy liquor there at the hotel or stores where they have local soju, socialist beer, even imported whiskey at some bars. If you bring something, maybe a little bottle of scotch as a generous gift for your guides, but be prepared that they might check the bottles to ensure it's really just booze. And I am repeating that, no drones, no large telescopes or powerful binoculars. If you declare yourself as a biologist or zoologist, then small binoculars might be okay for bird watching, but make sure they don't look like spying equipment. If you have something like a 360-degree camera or action cam, that's fine, but ask before use. Better to keep your gear low profile. The Koryo Tours advises content creators, leave the professional-looking gear at home. Big rigs can make officials think you're either a journalist or a spy. Use a GoPro or just your phone to avoid raising eyebrows. By now, I am sure you are physically well prepared. Mentally, you need to bring your patience and caution because you must abide by rules that seem silly or frustrating. You'll have little autonomy, and there will be times you really want to snap a photo or wander off for a closer look, and you'll have to resist. Prepare a flexible, go-with-the-flow attitude, and you'll do much better on this trip. With your bags packed, now imagine you've landed in Pyongyang or arrived by train at Sinwiju. What happens at customs and immigration?
The American man who was recently released from North Korea has admitted for the first time that he left a Bible in a North Korean nightclub bathroom on purpose. Jeffrey Fowle was speaking to US networks about his experiences during his 5-month detention in the North when he made that admission. He said that he thought it was a risk worth taking, but with hindsight, he would not do it again and he wouldn't recommend anyone else doing it. Fowle was unexpectedly released by the North on October 22nd and was flown home.
Welcome to Sunan International Airport, Pyongyang. The plane ride itself might have been your first taste of North Korean quirks. Perhaps Air Koryo blasted patriotic music as you descended, or handed out the Pyongyang Times newspaper with headlines about food production increases or the latest party congress. As you step off, you'll see portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il greeting you. Deep breath. This is the Pyongyang style. North Korean customs and immigration is a place where you want to be utterly courteous and compliant. The officers will likely be in military-style uniforms, possibly with badges of the leaders on their chests as signs of their ultra-loyalty. They will be stone-faced officers. This is not the time for jokes or small talk. Hand over your passport and visa documents as requested. Answer any questions truthfully and succinctly. Typically, they'll have you fill out a customs declaration form. On it, you must declare items like phones, cameras, laptops, books, excess cash, etc. Please list all the electronics you have. There's often a question about whether you're bringing in publications, CDs, or DVDs. If you had followed our packing advice, you would have checked no. Your luggage will go through X-ray. Unlike most countries, North Korea isn't scanning for drugs or weapons so much as for books, films, and forbidden tech. They are very serious about this. If they catch anything suspicious, officials open your bags to check. Don't be shocked if they take out a book or magazine you brought and flip through it. If they find some forbidden content, they will confiscate it on the spot, and you likely will never get it back. They might ask you questions if something puzzles them. With this socialist interrogation, you might just want to hand your books over, let them confiscate, and just move on. Phones and laptops can be subject to inspection. Not always. It depends on the situation and whether they suspect you have contraband files or not. An official could ask you to unlock your phone or laptop and scroll through your photo gallery for anything unsavory, or check if you have hundreds of Hollywood movies stashed. It's somewhat rare for them to deeply search personal electronics, but it's wise to act as if they will. So ideally, have nothing on there that you wouldn't want them to see. At minimum, perhaps change your lock screen wallpaper if it's, say, a US flag or Dalai Lama quote to something neutral. One consistent new procedure in our post-COVID timeline is sanitation checks. Every bag goes through a disinfecting machine upon entry. Yes, unless they change the rule, there will be a machine spraying your suitcase with some kind of sanitizer. So don't be surprised if your luggage gets wet with some chemical smells. It's their protocol. You might also get a basic health screening, possibly a temperature check, or having to fill out a health form. If you are apparently sick, expect some trouble, as they could legally quarantine you in the name of public health. So try not to cough up a lung in front of the officer. Then, you'll go through immigration control, where they verify your visa. This usually is straightforward if your paperwork is in order. The officer might ask something like, "Purpose of visit?" The answer is always, tourism. You got a tourist visa, right? So don't be creative here. They might also ask about your profession. If you're media-related, working in government or military, an honest answer only leads to more questions. Tour agencies often advise phrasing like office worker or some generic titles if you're in a sensitive field. If you are an army man, just say you are in the security business. It sounds more like your duty is setting up home alarm systems. Definitely do not say journalist or YouTuber. Just say you are a writer or an editor. The officers got their satisfying answer and stamped your visa slip, and then you are allowed in. More tips for this immigration process. As mentioned earlier, they often count your electronics. If you declare one phone, one camera, and one laptop, they typically expect you to leave with the exact number too. In the past, they'd write down the serial numbers. Not sure if they still practice now, but don't give your electronics to others. If they find a USB drive, they'll 100% check what's on it. Same with DVDs. Just don't bring them unless they are blank. But unless you plan to distribute them in the best Korea, why do you bring those video discs anyway? At this moment, you are ready to enter the hermit Kimdom. Remember, North Korean law applies to you now. Being on a guided tour doesn't protect you from their laws. If customs find something illegal, The tour company can't save you at that moment. And don't expect your country's ambassadors to come to rescue you, since your country likely doesn't even have an embassy here. Adjust your mindset and make sure that this trip is smooth and safe. Once you're cleared, you'll meet your tour guides in the arrivals area. There'll likely be 2 smiling North Koreans, one male, one female, holding a placard with your name or tour company. They might greet you with surprising cheeriness and a "Welcome to the DPRK." The mood will lighten as you step into their care. From here on, your guides are your handlers, chaperones, translators, and essentially watchdogs until the end of your trip. Now, your real North Korea tour experience begins. Visiting North Korea is often described as being in a bubble. You're physically in the country, but your path is carefully planned, and you're sealed off from normal daily life. Think of it as a mix between a personalized VIP tour and a house arrest. You are never alone. Typically, 2 guides will accompany your group. Sometimes a driver is your third watchdog. They will take you from site to site according to a set itinerary that has been approved by the tourism authorities. Want to check out that neat alley you saw from the bus? Nope. Feel like popping into a local market out of curiosity? Definitely nope, unless visiting there is a part of the plan. Expect it like a strict school trip, where your every move is monitored by your teachers. In fact, tourists have joked that North Korea is the only place where they have to ask permission to go to the bathroom like a school kid. It's not that they'll say no. I mean, they won't allow you to pee in your pants, but it's just the principle that you must report everything to them and can't wander off to any place on your own. Your guides are responsible for you in the eyes of their authorities. If you mess up, they get in trouble too. So they will be a bit strict, but also genuinely protective. Most North Korean guides are professionals who speak decent English, or whatever language your tour is in. They are often well educated with a sense of Korean humor. They know that foreigners find some things odd, and some will even gently joke about minor stuff. But they are also party loyalists to an extent, since these guides must be approved by the party and have done multiple rounds of background checks. They'll toe the government line on any serious topic. If you ask them, "What do you think of Kim Jong-un?" expect an enthusiastic, boilerplate praise response about the respected supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. Typically, after a day's schedule, you'll be taken back to your hotel. In many countries, evening is when you'd go exploring that country on your own, but not here. Some tours do schedule an after-dinner activity, like visiting a beer bar or a billiards room. But you won't be walking around Pyongyang at night solo. Any free time you have must be spent inside the hotel. So, download some ebook or Juche-approved shows for the evenings, and you may have some effective confinement time. Speaking of hotels, foreigners are typically placed in a few designated hotels in each city. In Pyongyang, the most famous is the Yanggakdo International Hotel, a 47-story behemoth on an island in the Taedong River, where the infamous Otto Warmbier incident happened. It's got a kitschy 90s vibe, revolving restaurant on top, bowling alley in the basement, etc. It also infamously had a mysterious off-limits 5th floor, where some say surveillance equipment or staff quarters are. It's basically a DPRK urban legend now. The Yanggakdo is reasonably comfortable by North Korean standards, but manage your expectations. A 4-star in Pyongyang is like a 2-star elsewhere. The electricity can be spotty, though they have backup generators that effectively kick in during the outbreaks. Hot water is usually available, but often on a schedule, typically a couple of hours in the morning and a couple in the evening. Many travelers experienced only lukewarm water, except during those set times. Air conditioners can be hit or miss. The decor will be retro. But hey, the revolving restaurant is pretty cool, and their beer is cheap. Another hotel, the Koryo Hotel, is also used. More centrally located, twin towers, slightly more charming in the lobby. It also reportedly suffers from the occasional cold shower and rock-hard mattresses. So, part of the adventure is that time travel feeling. Your room might feel like it hasn't changed since the 80s, and maybe it really hasn't changed since then. In the countryside or smaller cities, accommodations range from decent guest houses to pretty basic hotels. If you go to Mount Kumgang, Mount Paektu, or Kaesong, you might stay in a lodge or resort compound. Kaesong has some quirky tourist hotels where you sleep on heated floors in a traditional style. No matter where your hotel will be, regular North Koreans can't mix with you there, except for the staff. Often, the entire facility is a bubble. You'll see only your group and other tour groups. Now, listen with caution. It is widely presumed that your hotel room could be bugged or at least subject to random checks. The infamous "there's probably a camera or a microphone behind the mirror" trope. While we can't confirm this espionage thriller, you should act as if anything you say could be overheard. Certainly, do not leave sensitive materials lying around in your room. It's best to assume your business conversations and casual chats in public areas might reach others' ears. A rule of thumb is, don't badmouth Kim Jong-un after 2 beers in the hotel bar. If by chance your itinerary includes something like a visit to a local park or fun fair with some freedom to walk around, you'll still have guides hovering nearby. Tourists who tested boundaries in the past suffered some pretty bad outcomes. Quick anecdote: an American named Matthew Miller in 2014 deliberately tore up his visa upon entry and demanded asylum in the best Korea. However, he ended up sentenced to hard labor, then released a few months later when the US sent an envoy to negotiate. The point is, don't be the one who makes your guides freak out. They've got enough stress keeping you in line. Outside of your guides, you generally won't be aware of any secret police following you. You're mostly going to be too busy to notice anyway. But in reality, local authorities keep an eye on tour groups. North Korea's state security is always there in the background. Your guides likely file a report on your group's activities each day. Don't let that make you paranoid. As long as you're doing the right things, these unseen watchers stay unseen. The whole trip can be easy and comforting. After a while, you don't have to worry about what to do next, what to eat, where to go, or how to get there. It's all arranged. Some travelers say they found themselves strangely relaxed in North Korea because the decision fatigue of travel was gone. They just followed along. Of course, the flip side is zero spontaneity. A typical day starts at 7 a.m. with breakfast at the hotel, probably a mix of eggs, toast, maybe some Korean porridge and kimchi. By 8 or 9, you hop on the bus with guides and go see, for example, the Mansudae Grand Monument. There, you will likely be asked to bow and perhaps lay flowers to show your respect. Then maybe off to the War Museum, and you'll hear their version of the Korean War history. Lunch at a tourist restaurant, and you will taste the famous Pyongyang cold noodles at some point. Afternoon, perhaps a trip to the demilitarized zone at Panmunjom, where you see soldiers from the 2 Koreas staring at each other. By evening, you return to Pyongyang, have dinner. Your guides might have a couple of optional evening ideas. By 9 or 10 p.m., you're back in your room. Rinse and repeat the next day. Despite all this Big Brother vibe, many travelers report that after a day or two, you get used to it and you start focusing on what you can see and do rather than what you can't. You're witnessing a place frozen in a different era, interacting with people who have lived their entire lives in this system. Speaking of your experience, a lot of what you'll want to do is photograph or film what you see. That's allowed within bounds. But we already have enough content for this show, so why don't we reserve this idea and make another episode about photographing in the best Korea? Visiting North Korea is not for everyone. It's not exactly a place to relax where you can party on the beach, unless you just like the feeling of being under constant surveillance. It's certainly not the kind of trip where you discover your true self or find any spiritual nourishment. But North Korea is utterly unique in a particular time-traveling fashion. You step into a society that has been frozen in time for decades. Riding through Pyongyang streets, it feels like you time-warped to the 1980s. Then, seeing a neon-lit LED show on the Ryugyong Hotel will remind you that you are somehow in the 21st century. The very restrictions of being escorted by your guide can heighten your senses. When you're told you can't wander around, you start noticing every detail in the environment that you are allowed to see. The absence of Wi-Fi and social media is oddly liberating. You're fully present, detoxing from the electronic world and discovering the country's unique beauty. Travelers often describe the experience as surreal or like visiting another planet. Where else might you see thousands of citizens practicing choreographed mass dances in a public square? Or be the only guests in a 1,000-room hotel? Or have your tour bus stopped for hours because Kim Jong-un's motorcade is passing? There will be moments of genuine human connection. Maybe your guide, after a few days, relaxes and jokes with you about something apolitical, like teasing you for not finishing your rice. Perhaps you teach them a silly phrase in your language, and they teach you a Korean song. You realize that beyond the political theatre, these are just people, doing their jobs and living their lives. It's eye-opening to meet folks under one of the world's strictest regimes and see their resilience, pride, and even humour. Standing at the demilitarized zone on the north side, looking into South Korea, you feel the palpable tension of post-war division. Hearing the northern version of the war, you start to grasp the depth of mistrust and why diplomatic solutions are so hard. It's one thing to read about these issues. It's another to see the cold stares of North Korean soldiers just meters away from South Korean soldiers across the border. It's chilling and memorable. And hey, you'll have some good travel stories for life. How many people can say they've karaokeed to a North Korean pop song in Pyongyang or tasted the freshest North Korean beer in a socialist pub? When you return home and regain the internet, you'll have a lot of photos to sort and thoughts to process. You might feel a strange reverse culture shock. Everything at home will suddenly seem so open and bustling, and you'll miss the friends you made on the tour and even the guides. You'll likely continue following North Korea news and this YouTube channel with a much keener eye, thinking, I stood right where that missile parade is happening on TV. Or, oh, I met Mr. So-and-so who's quoted in that article. You can speak freely again, but also a touch of sadness or empathy after seeing many people who can't leave the Kimdom. It's a heavy realization. Not many trips make you think about freedom and privilege as much as this one. So, do you still want to visit North Korea? If you've made it through this episode, you're well armed with knowledge. It will be one heck of a story to tell. Just remember, once you decide to go, commit fully to respecting their rules while there. That's the trade-off to see this secretive land. Bon voyage, or as they say in Korean, 안전하게 여행하세요. Safe travels. Now go forth, follow the rules, and enjoy the most surreal tourist adventure in the world.